hopefully y'all are seeing my desktop clearly. Alan, maybe you can tell me.
Yep.
Yeah, good. So this is our agenda today. So just welcome. And as I said, Future Leaders Program and Community. So we'll have Philip Lancashire, who will introduce himself, say a bit about himself, and will share a bit about the Future Leaders Program. I'm personally interested in this for several reasons. It's fairly new. I know it's a few years old, but it's fairly new. And for persons like myself who's new to IOSH, I was curious about what the Future Leaders Program was. And I saw a post on LinkedIn, and I followed up to say, oh, let's get a similar session in our branch. But I think the other reason is for all of us, we're in this OSH profession, and we want to ensure that the future is bright for it. And, we want to know how we can help influence that. So I think it's good to hear a bit more about the program and what each of us as branch members and committee members can do to continue to make that difference. And then, as I mentioned, we have 3 of our future leaders who have bravely said, I'll come on to the branch meeting and share a bit. So we have Faye, Kevin, and Jake, and they will share on their career background and why they got into the profession. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then we'll go into some Q&As. So in the interim, as the conversation is happening, put a Q in front of the question you may have in the chat, because I know sometimes the chat will be conversation, sharing things, commenting, but there's also questions. So a couple of us in the background will take note of the questions. We may also invite persons to come off mute and ask their questions. And then we will have the usual branch updates. I'm actually on a training course, so I was able to negotiate to come out because I wanted to host this session. But I'll step away around 2 o'clock, and Alan will take on hosting duties. So thanks, Alan, for that. And then we'll close around 2:30. So again, just want to say thank you to Philip and the rest of the team who will be presenting today. And I think I said everything, except remember to put yourself on mute if you're not speaking, so we have no background interruptions. It's good. Looking forward to this. So I'll hand over to Philip. So I'll stop sharing and he will share his screen and introduce himself.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for having us, and thank you for everybody who's joining us today. So I'm just going to share my screen with you so you can see what's going on. There we go. So thank you for having us. I really appreciate it. Just to word of warning, it may look like my screen goes a bit black. The light sensor in this room is a bit crazy, so bear with me if it looks like I'm in darkness. So just to give you a bit of an overview, I'm here to talk about the Future Leaders Community and what we're about and how people can get involved and how they can start to support future leaders and get involved. So as I said, my name is Philip Lancashire. I'm currently a health and safety advisor for Games Workshop, mainly based in Nottingham. We're a worldwide company, but our head office is in Nottingham. And we make the best fantasy miniatures in the world, mainly manufacturing and distribution to our retail stores for the hobbyists out there among you. Also a member of, as Melissa said, of the IOSH Future Leaders Community Steering Group, which is a group of people looking at the Future Leaders Community and how we can help and support them. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So why do we have a Future Leaders Community? The Future Leaders Community was launched in May 2019 and is part of IOSH's 5-year strategy, the Work 2022, Shaping the Future of Safety and Health, and it's to enhance the occupational safety and health profession. IOSH recognises that this is an extremely important key segment of members who are new to the industry and are in their early to mid-career stages and represent the future of the OSH profession. So future leaders represent not only the future of the OSH profession, but a dynamic community that IOSH and the steering group can support and empower in evolving throughout their OSH journey. So we look as a community to support young professionals to build connections with others and to show the variety of job roles, work, and all the different things that go on with regards to the health and safety industry and how to help them and support them in their starting out. So who are the Future Leader Community? So there are over 7,000 of over 47,000 IOSH members are considered to be part of the Future Leaders Community, which has doubled over the last 2 years. The research that I've been given from over 600 members who have selected the IOSH Chiltern branch as their local branch, over 30 of those are part of the Future Leaders community. You don't have to apply, you just have to be an IOSH member and meet one of the criteria displayed on this slide. So the three main criteria are a student member of IOSH, whether you are 35 years or under, or you have 5 or less years experience within health and safety. If you tick any of those 3 boxes, then you're part of what we call the Future Leaders community. So 24 volunteers from the Future Leaders community make up a forward-thinking steering group responsible with the IOSH membership engagement team support for making sure content, resources and events are relevant to the community, to aid, support and empower new and ambitious professionals through their career journeys. So a key role of the steering group is to almost act as the mouthpiece of the community, ensuring that we remain relevant and we can deliver against key issues affecting new occupational health and safety professionals in real time, really. So resources and networking. So we've done a huge amount of stuff over the last 2 years with regards to Future Leaders. So here's just a bit of information on all of that. So webinars and virtual events. So we've delivered virtual events on a range of topics, from dealing with Zoom, how to communicate and get your point across when using virtual communication, how to try and stay relevant in the workplace if you are working from home and trying to continue to have that influence, how to deal with people at board level and how to get people on board. You know, people who are new to their careers, who might be starting out as managers, can sometimes find it difficult to talk to board members or senior managers that have been in their roles for many years. So we look at that. A range of different topics, from mental health to key areas that IOSH are focusing on, such as asbestos and all those key areas, just to help them along and help them get their knowledge and skills improved. We've recorded presentation sessions with universities, so we're looking at helping universities and trying to get people into the OSH profession as much as possible. The IOSH plan is to, as far as I'm aware, the IOSH plan is to move backwards in steps. So we start at universities, and then hopefully that will then start trickling back towards colleges, and then maybe even to people who are finishing secondary school, to try and promote health and safety as a first choice career. All of our webinars can be attended live or watched later on our YouTube channel, and you can find the recordings via our Future Leaders webpage. We've got a LinkedIn group and a discussion forum. We've created a dedicated platform for the community to network and share knowledge and experience with each other. The LinkedIn group has exploded over the last year or so. So if anybody isn't on the LinkedIn page, please have a look. I'll put some links in the chats when I'm finished talking. Join us on the LinkedIn group. We want to talk, we want to get discussion going. There are articles on there that's written by our networking groups, articles written by our steering group members. So it's a way to really drive up discussion and to really have a conversation about anything if there's something that you're concerned about, want to get more information on. IOSH magazine, so we dedicate a lot of time to the magazine. So last year we had a dedicated Future Leaders magazine for the month, which was in November of last year. And at the moment now we have a dedicated Future Leaders section, which features articles and interviews from our Future Leaders community on a monthly basis. So I will submit the link to that as well in the chat so you can access that. We are looking at introducing something called a monthly series, which is Future Leaders Opinions. So it's first-person opinion pieces directly from members of the Future Leaders community, aimed to provide insight or real-life experiences to inspire and support others in the community. So one of our members, Peter, has just written a piece regarding being alone in this industry and the feel of isolation, especially obviously over during this COVID period, and how to deal with that and how to cope with that. So this article's written by all community members and all steering group members, so I will put the links in there as well. We obviously love to hear from people who are members of the Future Leaders community. If you want to write articles for us or you've got something to say, I'll drop the email in, email us and let us know if you've got something to say, and we're happy to help you with that. We also had the Future Leaders Conference. So the second conference was held over 3 days in March, including 31 speakers, and brought together professionals from across the globe, really, from all different industry sectors, all different countries. It was a an online virtual conference, obviously due to current COVID restrictions. Hopefully the next one will happen in spring of next year. So hopefully we can try and do it in a different way. Hopefully we'd like to do it in a bit of a mix situation where there's some online and some physical, so we can really still engage with those international future leaders as much as we can. Conferencing highlights. So there is a link which I'll also put in the chat regards some of the key highlights of that conference, so you can see exactly what we were up to and how it's been working. So benefits. The current Future Leaders Community Steering Group has achieved so much in the last year, and there's much more to follow. There'll be regular content that's delivered on a monthly basis by for the Future Leaders Community, by the steering group and community members, as well as new content that will be developed by us as a steering group. We will be looking at monthly virtual events specifically for the community that's created by us. The next Future Leaders Conference that I've mentioned, opinion pieces, interviews in the magazines, social media content, and much more to follow. So one of the things that we're talking about at the moment, which is just coming out hopefully, is a sort of monthly virtual get-together of future leaders for you to come at different times each month, so we can get those international community members as well, just for an hour or an hour and a half for people to come together and to just introduce themselves to each other, start to talk to each other and really network with each other. People can come and bring a concern if they've got a concern or a question that they want answering, and we can try and answer it. And each month we'll try and focus on a particular topic to try and give it some steer, but it's mainly there as a nice open forum for people to attend to really start to engage with each other, engage with us and IOSH and their community. So how can people get involved? There are a variety of ways for members of the community to get involved. Networking, sharing your own knowledge, experiences and feedback, which is obviously what we're doing here today. And we can continue to engage with our local branches. Tell them what you need, what you'd like to see more of, and don't be afraid to make those all-important networking connections. What we aim to do, and I think we're looking at massively this year, is to really focus on getting other people involved with the community, such as branches and the IOSH Council and the presidential team, to really cohesively bring everybody together. How can others support future leaders in their branches and things? We're looking for people to provide advice and guidance to future leaders is essential. Others can do this by getting involved in webinars. So if you're an expert in an area, we may be asking for people to come forward to talk about certain topics, and we'd love to hear from those experts to come and deliver webinars or talks to our future leaders to help them. Or to become an IOSH mentor as part of the mentoring service to help mentor a future leader. That would be an amazing support as well. So how can branches support future leaders? I think in my experience from the last couple of years, when we sort of did things more physically and we had physical branches, I think there was, from speaking to members of the Future Leaders community, there was a concern that sometimes it felt a bit daunting for them to be in a room with a lot of people who have been in the industry for many, many years, and they're all chartered or fellows. And I think maybe they didn't feel, I don't want to say welcome, but they didn't feel like they could speak much or give their opinion, and sometimes maybe felt that their opinion wasn't as valid as those in the room. And I think we really need to start embracing all of us together, the future leaders and the branch committees and the branch members that we've got, to all work together. I think we can learn from each other as future leaders. We want to learn from those who have been doing it for a long time, and hopefully we're bringing things, new ideas and new things to experienced members that they may have never been involved in it before, and really want to start to cohesively work together and break down that barrier of separation, really. So that is us in a nutshell as a steering group and as a committee. We really want to focus on building our network bigger this year and really starting to build those connections with people. We want to show people what the industry is about, how it's so amazingly diverse and different, and really focus on some key areas. One of those big key areas that we're focusing on this year will be the softer skills, or what we call power skills, to really look at those things outside of the technical standpoint that can really help drive future leaders to be better in their industries and within their roles and workplaces. So I hope that's been informative for everybody. If you are interested, please drop me a message, add me on LinkedIn, or put something in the chat and we can have a look. I'm going to drop some information in the chat so you've got all the web pages that I've talked about so you can see all the information that we've been doing. And get onto the LinkedIn page, join us, start some conversation, and I look forward to hearing from you all very, very soon.
Thanks, Philip, for that piece. Do you want to share a bit about yourself and your career journey? Why did you get into the profession?
Yeah, happy to. So obviously the others will talk about theirs as well. So I sort of went in, there's many different routes, and I went in more of a workplace practical route. I was one of those people that fell into health and safety, as we know. There's normally those people that get it as an add-on to their job and things. So I started out as an office administrator many years ago and went from different departments to support them during busy times. And I ended up working for the health and safety team for a short period of time. And that's when I sort of caught the health and safety bug, so to speak. So I did health and safety admin for a fair few years and went on to do my NEBOSH General Certificate and then the NVQ Level 5. And moved up through IOSH and through the qualifications and IOSH levels. I worked previously for another manufacturing company, which was my first real advisor role, where I learned so much dealing with other managers and looking at dealing with high-level senior managers and board directors and that sort of stuff, which was a massive eye-opener for me. And then I became the health and safety manager for that business, which obviously then took a totally different turn, and I was managing others. So yes, it's been an eventful 10 years or so, and I've learned so much, and IOSH has supported me through that. And I think this Future Leaders, I think if this was here when I was a future leader, it'd be something I'd be really engaging with. I'm still classed as a future leader, but I think, when I first started, back those years ago, with looking at the NEBOSH certificate and starting out, this information would have been really vital and helpful to me. So that's what I'm personally always thinking about, is that person who's coming into this industry that's just starting out. What do they want to know? How do they want to get better? And how we as a community can look to support them on that. So yeah, currently work for Games Workshop and mainly focus on warehousing and distribution at the moment. So we've just built a brand new warehouse facility, so that's all exciting. And there's lots of new things that I've not been involved in before, like robots moving pallets and boxes around, a bit like an Amazon warehouse. So it's all new and exciting. So yes, so I look forward to it. I look forward to hearing from you all and speaking more as regards to future leaders. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Philip. Just wanted to mention that Louise Griffin is on the call as well. So she's been posting some of the links as you spoke, Philip. So
I knew she would be. She's part of our amazing team and she does a lot of hard work for us. I knew she'd be here and backing me up and supporting me. So thank you to her. Excellent.
Just a reminder, if people have questions, to put them on the chat. And we can call on you to raise the questions in the room as well.
Yeah, perfect.
Maybe I'll raise a question just to kind of get that piece going, and then we'll let Faye share a bit about her background. But so thanks for providing that overview of what you see branch members can help or support in the future leaders. But what's one challenge and one opportunity for the future leaders in your view, Philip?
I think one thing for future leaders to really focus on at the moment is building their networks and communications with each other. And as we talked about earlier, or as I mentioned earlier, sort of those power skills and softer skills that we talk about a lot, mainly because they are so vital. Anybody can go away and get those technical skills. It's those other skills that make you stand out from the crowd and make you seem more visible to people who are hiring. So looking at dealing with people face to face, using communication effectively, how do we deal with board level people, all those softer skills that help make you a more well-rounded OSH Professional, we understand the technical side is important, but those power skills really help you stand out from the crowd. I think for me personally, one thing that continues to be out there and attention grabbing is mental health, especially at this moment in time with what's going on with COVID as well. I think it's going to take a massive forefront once the restrictions come down to whatever lowest level they will be. There will be a huge amount of work regards to that, and we as occupational health professionals will more than likely get involved in that in some way. And I think it's being prepared for that and understanding that. The other final thing for me is the challenges of how things will change in the future. Some businesses will categorically change the way they work based on COVID now and forever. A lot of people will possibly be working from home permanently now. This technology that we're using now will become more day to day, even after COVID. I don't think for 1 minute that it's going to drop off completely and we'll go back to full face-to-face meetings and things, but it's understanding that the world of work will drastically change again. And hopefully, I think businesses need to find the right balance of the two and find that nice central point that works for them as a business and allows them to be flexible and allows people to work safely and be flexible. But one thing to think about, I think, is those people who are working from home and making sure that we can still provide them with the stuff that we can and resources to make sure they're happy and safe and healthy at home.
Yeah, good. Yeah, a lot of opportunities for us as OSH professionals. So no, thanks. And just as we continue with the conversation, any other questions people may want to bring up. So when we started to talk about this topic as one of our branch meetings, we did send out an invite for future leaders from our Chiltern branch, who would like to come and share a bit about why they're in the profession, their career journey, and also give us some feedback on what we can do to help support going forward as branch members, and for some of us on the call as well as committee members. So we had 3 persons who raised their hands, which was really exciting. So we wanted each of them to share a bit and on that. And just one thing I'll say before I ask Faye to come on is that Philip isn't from the Chiltern branch, which is one of the things I love, is that, now that we've gone virtual, and so we are able to connect with other branches, etc. And there's such a huge network and community and, learning from each other and so on. So I'm a huge fan of this type of collaboration. So, Philip was from a different branch and he's come to do this presentation. So Faye, would you like to?
Hi, hello everybody, I'm Faye. So I am a senior health and safety advisor and I work for a large media and events company, and it sort of specializes in everything from talent agency right the way through to large events, TV and different types of media. As well as big marketing brand activations. So as you can imagine, health and safety from my point of view is generally very creative and dealing with very creative people. Just to share a little bit of background as to how I got into the industry. I changed my career at the age of 30 and moved into health and safety. I started off as a personal trainer. So I was a personal trainer for many years. I worked in the fitness industry, and then I had 2 children. And after having my children, I went back to work, but went more into kind of an operational role. So sort of operations management of like health clubs. And that introduced me to health and safety. And I suppose a bit like what Philip said, I got the health and safety bug, and I kind of thought to myself, actually, I really love this. I love audits and I love kind of being involved in all of that. And it made me want to sort of change my career into the health and safety path. So my the last 6 years of my life has been dedicated to getting more into health and safety roles. So I did 4 years working in retail, at retail head office, as a health and safety advisor looking after the UK and Europe. And we were looking after retail distribution and the stores. And then I moved over, hopped across into this world of events and media, which is an entirely different beast to maybe working on a construction site or something like that. So some of the biggest challenges of my sort of my role generally is from the creative side of, so working with people who are thinking about the end user, what they're going to see. They're going to see this fun, exciting piece of TV. They're going to come to this really big event with funfair rides. And then they come to me and they're like, right, well, now we need to work out how we're going to make it safe, how we're going to make sure that we can do it within the realms of the law, and how are we going to make sure that everybody still has a good time, or we produce a piece of TV which looks really fun. And we tend to use a lot of equipment which can be quite dangerous. There's a lot of drones and helicopters and boats and things involved. So as you can imagine, the challenges of dealing with all of this, along with kind of production people or events people, can present quite a few different angles, which don't necessarily provide you with the answers by sitting technical qualifications. I think sort of from the future of the profession, like what Philip has touched on, power skills, as I know Louise likes to call them, or those softer skills as we move into the professional, what are going to sort of drive things forward. I know, especially from my industry, and I know from my senior leadership team and my C-suite, they want to see health and safety as a collaborative operation. They want to see health and safety as an engagement. We're the enablers. We're here to enable the yes at the end of the day. We're here to be able to say to them, yes, you can do that, and this is how you can do it safely. We're not here to say, no, you can't do that. That sounds too scary. So it's moving away from that kind of, I don't want to say the fun police role, but it's moving away from that and more into that kind of those softer skills. I'm very much around explaining to people that I like to create an environment with safety, an open environment with safety, where it's all about the how to do things, the why we do things, rather than the do's and the don'ts. So we talk about how you do it. We talk about why we would like you to do it safely. We talk about all of that to get the engagement, rather than going down the route of being kind of, don't do this, do this. And it's definitely an effective way to create engagement, especially in the industry that I work in. And moving forwards, I think the virtual side of the branch meetings has opened up so much more opportunity for people like myself to be able to network and get to know people and take part in these webinars. As someone who is a mum, and usually I work in London, and I'm commuting and I come home and I've got my children. It's very hard for me to sometimes get to a branch meeting. And on top of that, I think it was touched on earlier, sometimes it can be, as someone who's starting off in their career, I suppose it can feel slightly intimidating, because there's lots of people who have been in the industry for like 20, 30 years, and lots of chartered members and chartered fellows. And I think this virtual way of getting people together and being able to sort of spread our wings and get a bit more reach like that has really kind of opened up the doors for me as in my career to be able to network and really sort of get to know people. It doesn't take away from the sort of being able to meet face to face, and it would still, I think, having been able to meet people virtually, I probably feel more confident meeting people face to face now, but I think it's definitely opened lots of doors as far as that's concerned.
Thanks so much, Faye, for sharing that. And, as we'll hear from the other two, everyone's background is different, which I think makes it interesting because it's diverse opinions, views, history, etc. we can go into a lot of conversations around the value of collaboration, as what you've touched on. And I know there's a lot of conversations about the future of the meetings, branch meetings. Should it go back 100% face-to-face or virtual or hybrid, etc. So I think it's good hearing feedback from others on what's worked over this last year and a half. We've been given an opportunity. So that's good. Thanks. I know Alan's asked about if you all do Twitter, and I think Philippa said not yet, but something you all will be looking into, possibly. I don't tweet, so LinkedIn, but yeah, I know Twitter, you know, being inclusive, Twitter is an option a lot of people use as well. Good. Thanks, Faye. Again, remember, just chat, put in the notes any comments, chats, and questions. So I'll introduce or ask Kevin to come on. So I think, Kevin, I am to share your slide.
Yes, I had some technical difficulties. Yeah. So I think it'll be obvious when it's time to switch over. This is me. So I currently work at a company called Henshin & Sheehy Support Services as their head of health and safety, environment and quality. They do like to sort of tap environment and quality onto a lot of the roles that I've always done. They're sort of an M&E facilities management service provider. So they'll do installs of boilers or ventilation systems, maintaining them afterwards, and a lot of residential and commercial properties. I recently gained my chartered membership with IOSH. I said I work in the health and safety industry for almost 10 years. A lot of the earlier stuff wasn't in a health and safety role. It was more health and safety adjoined. So at the moment I'm 33, so I'm still technically a future leader, but in a few years, I think I'm going to fall outside of that. We'll sort of see where we go along. Go to the next slide. Is it not working? Oh, well, okay.
Sorry about that. Is that the next slide?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So I actually believe that my journey started when I was 16. I trained to become a lifeguard. It was one of the very first things that I ever learned to do outside of school. My instructor told me the first day that once you learn to see hazards, you can never not see them, and it was completely true. From that day on, it was just something that I was always aware of. It was always in the back of my mind. It was something I always spotted as I went through, and I think that's kind of where it started. So I did many things after that before I ended up getting into health and safety properly. And then what I got to the profession. So I think probably this story is going to be very similar. I didn't start out planning to be a health and safety professional. I actually started as an internal auditor. I really did enjoy auditing, and I was going from different sites and organizations, finding sort of different issues, normally operationally, and then working with those different teams to fix those issues. Health and safety was sort of part of this, where they had to make sure they were meeting sort of the internal company's requirements. But when the health and safety internal auditor, and a specific one for that, retired, the job was offered to me because I was the auditor, and I accepted for the pay rise more than anything else. Came with a car, it was quite nice. But what I really found was my passion when I went to health and safety, knowing that what I did made a difference, that, you know, not just to the company as a whole, but to each individual that was working, that what I did mattered. It was the first time I did anything that was like that. Before, everything was kind of just, you know, going along with the flow and just a job at the end of the day. But health and safety was the first time it felt like it was a real profession that I was getting involved in that made a difference in the world. That's sort of a background of my career journey. So after being health and safety auditor for a while, I got to know the head of health and safety, where I worked at a company called IOSH Future Leaders, another world's third largest facilities management company. And he asked if I wanted to take a more active role in health and safety, not just auditing. And he gave me a promotion to a health and safety advisor. I was mentored by this person. He got me into the IOSH General course and a bunch of different ISO courses because that's what they needed at the time. I gave my first real health and safety qualifications. I learned a lot about practical health and safety, working in large organizations, very different sort of way of working, you know, facilities management. It's a wide scale of business, different industries, different buildings, different clients. Everything was just a constant learning curve. Move on. I worked there for a few years, and then I got promoted to being a health and safety manager. I was given my own region, which is London and south of England. So it was a lot of time driving on the road, a lot of time spent at Burger Kings and KFCs and different service stations. And just had, the height of it was 200 sites, over 1,000 workers. I was working quite independently, but I always had senior health and safety people within my own organization to mentor me and help me and guide me. While I was doing that, I completed my MVQ level 5 diploma in occupational health and safety and joined IOSH as a graduate member. I did get to learn, I think, very high standard of health and safety, at least for global organizations. It was always whatever was known. And then I left ISS in August of last year. I was going to wait until the COVID pandemic ended. It's what some people told me to do. Probably a good choice that I didn't decide to wait for it to blow over, because I'd still be waiting. And I got a position by doing a lot of searching, a lot of trial and error as the head of health and safety for an SME. They worked in facilities management as well, potentially, but also more on the property side. It was my first time having no real support within the own company. I'm the only health and safety person. I was their first health and safety person. I got to build my own system and build my own brand of health and safety as I saw it, away from a larger organization. And I was really, really glad that I joined IOSH previously, because it gave me that sort of support structure where I could still go to people and ask for things and finding out what was going on. I gained my chartered membership, as I said, a couple of weeks ago. It's not been that long. And the icing on the cake this year was winning the International Safety Awards, Best in Country UK, and Best in Sector Construction and Property, and the Chief Adjudicators Award, big supporter of British Safety Council's International Safety Award. And then the future. So I think definitely over the last few years, COVID has taken a shift. Even before that, I'm seeing it more commonly seen as a value-added role instead of a barrier to overcome. A trusted advisor instead of an enforcer. Say those power skills, the softer skills coming to the forefront. I think COVID-19 has been a large part of that shift. But I think it's the changes happening in our profession, but the way IOSH's plan is for the future. Big thing I'm seeing a lot, especially in sort of these large corporations, is that the future is not easily foreseeable. I think people used to be very like, well, we've got a guidance document for that, we've got a guidance document for that. And COVID has sort of shaken that foundation a little bit to say, actually, there's not always going to be a guidance document to hold our hand. And things can change very quickly. So I think the future of the profession is going to have a lot more involvement in long-term sustainability, supporting organizations being more adaptable to change. Not just those long-term changes, but the short-term changes that can cause risks. And the Chiltern branch, I'm very happy to be a member of. So I joined the Chiltern branch almost a year ago. I've only ever known IOSH in its digital form. I've never been to a physical meeting. I've never seen any of them in person. So I did feel very welcomed into the group of like-minded individuals, even on a digital version. It was great what we're all working towards the same goal and have that same vision of the future for the most part. So I hope in the future that face-to-face meetings will come back. But the benefits of digital webinars allow for so much accessibility. I don't want to see those go away personally. It's great when I'll time write audit reports for webinars and branch meetings, because at least I can sort of listen in while I'm catching up on some of the more mundane tasks. And in the next year, I'd actually like to see more networking. Like the idea of mentoring, so pairing up new and long-term members to share thoughts and ideas. Maybe making these online meetings a bit more interactive, but we're going to keep them. Maybe investing in something a bit more robust than Zoom, where we'd be able to be more interactive. And more topics on human factors. So there's power skills and the softer skills for correcting real change. Honestly, even now, after all this time, I still have to Google and look up guidance documents. So those softer skills are things that you can't really take the chance to look up. And that's me. Thank you very much. And feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you want. I'm always happy to network.
Good. Thanks so much, Kevin, for that. Just really good. A couple of question or comments came up on the chat, so I wasn't able to see them while you were talking. So just scrolling through just quickly to see if there's anything. Oh yes, congrats, Kevin, on CMIOSH. That's really good. Yeah, I was supposed to say that. And yeah, okay, I think there were some comments there. So no, some really good feedback. Thanks. Kevin shared a story with me. I hope it's okay to share to say it in terms of joining committee. Shake head or yes or no?
Yes, no, go for it. I thought it was a funny
Yeah.
story as well.
Yeah, because I think it's timely because you know, one of the things I know Alan would have mentioned in the branch updates is you all would have seen the comms coming out about opportunities to join council and the trustee committee, the committee nominations committee, sorry, as well as vice president piece. And for me, I'm always, you know, if you want to be making a difference, you see there's opportunities for change, throw your hat in. So I know Kevin had shared that he had looked at, you know, whether he should join the committee, but because he said he didn't know anyone, he didn't bother. And I think, yeah, that was a missed opportunity. So because in that case, I think we had less persons apply for the committee than what we needed. So, you know, we want to get branch members coming to the committee meetings and being part of the committee. So it's just, I think that was a good lessons learned. So, you know, don't doubt yourself, just throw your hat in. So I think that's a really good piece, as you know, there is this opportunity for people to apply for council, etc. So I hope that was okay, Kevin, to share. Good. So I don't know if there's any other questions that's come through so far. If not, Jake, I guess you can share. So good. Gives me an opportunity to look through the chats. Thanks, Jake. And yeah, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Melissa. Hello, everyone. Right, I'll cover a little about me. I thought I'd show some pictures to start with, just to brighten up everyone's day. So I'll show a slide on the roles I've had. So I've been in safety for, gets a bit scary when you look back, doesn't it? And I did that for this purpose. 12 years, and I've been chartered for 10 of them. And given that I'm in the Future Leaders Community, you'll probably assume, therefore, that I went straight into safety as a first career. So I'll come on to the details a bit later. So where did it all start for me? It started, I guess, at uni. I completed an environmental health degree. And why did I choose that degree that's relatively unknown in the student population, I would say? Well, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't get very good A-levels. So having a long, hard chat with my dad, he said, well, actually, he found this course actually combined a bit of law, a bit of science, and actually might be quite interesting. So that was how I got into environmental health. For those that don't know, environmental health professionals typically work for a local authority. There is a private sector need for environmental health specialists, but typically local authority in the UK, and they are the regulator for lower risk premises such as retail, warehouse, distribution, etc. So doing that degree, I was on a path to become a local authority regulator. Through my placement year, which was third year at uni, working in London, through the connections I built up there, it became very clear to me that I didn't really want a life in local government. It wasn't for me, and really broadened my kind of mindset of I need to get into the private sector. So that was kind of how I got interested in safety. And the second bit, roll back 12 years ago. It didn't feel like there were very many young people in safety at that time. I'm sure there were, but it didn't feel like that within IOSH. And actually, one of the things that I thought is I thought I could be a bit different in that not only did I not think there was that many young people in IOSH or within the safety profession in the UK, that actually that stigma of being a clipboard warrior was very much present back in those days. And I think it's not completely gone now. So I thought to myself, well, actually, I can be very different to that. I can have a kind of a business-centric, forward-thinking attitude, bring all my energy and passion, and I think I could stand out here. So they were my reasons for getting into safety in the first place. So I'll just put a couple of pictures in terms of the sectors I've worked in those 12 years. Starting from retail, supermarket retail, through to warehouse and distribution. Then I moved sectors, and petrol retail, and then I moved into the oil industry, and then latterly into food manufacturing with a bit of retail. So I have done kind of a little bit of a mix. So if I go on to my career journey, I'm not going to go through all roles. So after uni, I started with Lidl, the supermarket. I got a lucky break, I think, in terms of I had zero experience, but I did have my degree, and I could relate to what I did in my year out as being a mini regulator as a student environmental health officer. And I actually had inspected a number of Lidl premises and actually was involved in, although I wasn't the signator, involved in serving an improvement notice. So I could recite some of their systems and shortcomings, which the interviewers found quite amusing because they weren't personally involved. So through Lidl, I managed to get promoted to trading law manager. Within that role at Lidl, covered everything from food safety to health and safety to fire safety to trading standards. It was a small team covering Lidl's 600 stores and 8 distribution centres, so kind of a very broad role. And in that role, I very much cut my teeth, I think it's fair to say. I got my chartered membership in 2011 there. And then came the next break, and I do put this down in part to my charter status of IOSH, so I hold that very proudly, that I got a call from a recruiter who's seen my profile on LinkedIn and said, oh, you look like someone who knows quite a bit about retail. I've got a role that's quite different, but it is supporting a retail business. Happens to be an oil and gas company. I thought, oh, this sounds very interesting. And I'd always wanted to get into the high hazard industry. So through one thing or another, I joined BP, initially supporting the rollout of a global management system for their retail forecourts. And then through, I actually have omitted a couple of different roles there because I did lots of different things. But through a period of 5 years, I managed to move from the retail business into the oil side of it in terms of terminals where you store all the petroleum products. And then I actually moved to the upstream business in the last 2 years of BP, and I ended up supporting the global wells when they drill for oil, supporting the rollout of a risk-based verification system. And then that was all going very, very well. The only thing that BP didn't give me was tangible leadership. I'll touch on the leadership program in the next bit around the future. But I couldn't see a clear path through there with BP. So I was contacted by an ex-colleague from BP who joined Domino's, mentioned that they'd created a new role. They were looking for someone to head up the safety team at Domino's, and that would then give me that tangible leadership experience. So that brings me to today's world. I work for Domino's Pizza UK and Ireland, so I'm assuming most of you on the call have heard of Domino's. I head up a team of 3 safety professionals covering the retail stores in London, and the main focus actually is the 5 food factories and distribution operation out to the 1,200 stores in the UK and Ireland. And I also cover I have a team that covers facilities, so it's within my accountability. So I think I won't touch on too much in terms of day-to-day, because I think I echo what's already been said by Faye and Kevin. I would say this is the first role that I'm the most senior safety person in the organisation, so that the buck stops with me, the strategy ultimately stops with me, and that was one of the draws moving from BP, as you can appreciate, thousands of safety professionals, and at Lidl I was early on in my career. In terms of what I get involved in, and it will link to how I see the future, I don't actually do much safety, if I put safety in inverted commas. But by that, I mean, I don't undertake many risk assessments at Domino's. I don't actually do a whole lot of training. The model that we've adopted, that I think works very well, is me and the team's aim is to upskill the line so the line can actually deliver safety. So risk assessment should be done by our line, and they are done by our line managers, our shift managers, and clearly we upskill them in principles of risk assessment and coach them through that. So a lot of my day job, other than keeping Domino's trading through the pandemic, which has been a big focus, it is all about delivering cultural change, and that's either through the culture or through systems or through some added process, and that's engaging from the board down to the site management team. And I think that's really important, because for me, you can see on that, I put it in red text there, it actually has taken me 9 years in my safety career to actually have a job title that's got health and safety in it. So I think it shows the breadth of the health and safety profession, that you can do so many different jobs, and all of my jobs have actually required me to be a safety professional. I wouldn't have moved into any of those roles if I didn't have my degree, and you could arguably say chartered membership of IOSH. But actually, other than my current role, none of them had health and safety in the job title, and they're all a little bit different and a little bit niche. My current role being the most, I guess you would say, standard safety job, if there were one. So that's kind of really where I'm at. And I got one more slide just around, I guess, the future. I've split it between what do I think the future of the profession looks like, and what more do I think the Chiltern branch and IOSH could do. I'll let you can read the slides. I'm going to pull out a few of them. Some of them clearly kind of talk to themselves. On the future of the profession, already been mentioned on this call already around power skills. I've actually recruited 2 out of those 3 safety managers that report into me. I've recruited myself in the last 18 months. And I found it incredibly difficult to recruit for both positions, because I was looking for someone that had that spark and could demonstrate leadership and could demonstrate that they're different from just reciting legislation. And I went through about 20 interviews, and the vast majority of candidates, of which I'd say over half of them would fit the future leaders category, really just came across as very much, I'm going to recite the law, this is what we've got to do. So I do genuinely think that throughout the profession, and certainly in the future leaders community, an increased focus on power skills, an understanding on EQ, emotional intelligence, how it's important, how you show up at work and how you react to others. All of that kind of stuff for me is a differentiation. I think it's not as common as it should be in our profession. And the second bit on the future of the profession I'll talk about is about doing less safety ourselves, a little bit in terms of how I've kind of set up dominoes. But I do think moving forwards, if we can upskill operational colleagues to actually deliver safety themselves and move to a more coaching, supporting, challenging and strategic element, rather than just us doing the risk assessment, then what you're creating there is a sustainable future for that business. So I do see the future as a safety professional doing less practical safety and enabling the organisation to do that themselves. And then just moving on to the support from IOSH and the Chiltern branch. The bottom one there, IOSH Leadership Academy. And I actually listened to a YouTube webinar from IOSH. I forget the title of it. And someone on there made a very good point that we keep talking about power skills and leadership, but how do we actually train people in leadership? Through my time at BP, I was fortunate to have 2 great experiences. One was to go to China to support their petrol forecourt business, which was amazing, and it gave me an insight into different cultures. And secondly, I went on an 18-month leadership development program that actually taught me what the heck is leadership. And on the first day of it, we all had to kind of give an assessment of ourselves, and I came away from that understanding that my style was one style, but actually had some massive blind spots. So actually, I came back from that first day extremely deflated and told my partner at the time that I've been knocked down a peg or 10 as a young cocky person, so to speak. And after the 18 months, I was so much more rounded as an individual. And I'm lucky because BP was a huge company, but within our profession, we need to be able to bottle that up in some way for the profession, so that everyone else has the opportunity to go on that journey of understanding what is actual leadership. And then the second one I'll touch on is the promoting OSH as a first career. If I was at school and someone said to me, if you go into safety, you may be able to work for an international oil and gas company and go to China, etc. Go and support drilling in Oman, all of these kind of areas, and you can have a very fruitful career through that. I probably wouldn't have believed them, because when I was in school, safety, as I thought of it as a school-age person, was someone in a white coat walking around with a clipboard. So I think there's more for us to do to say there's a whole breadth of this profession, far flung from walking around with a clipboard, and it's all 4 corners of this world, and it's anything from a supermarket to drilling in a deep water Gulf of Mexico and anything in between. So I'm very much open to support and try and find more ways that we can communicate safety as a first profession. Like I said at the beginning of this, 12 years ago, I don't think there were that many youngsters like me, if I use that as inverted commas. So I've probably overgone my time actually looking at that, so apologies, Melissa, but that's me in a snapshot. Thanks for listening. Happy to answer any questions.
No, thanks so much, Jake. Really good. I mean, hearing from the three of you all, as well as Philip, is very inspiring. It just highlights a couple of things, right? All of your different backgrounds, different parts of how you've gotten into the profession, but also different industries. And I think, Jake, you summarized it, right? It could be from like retail to offshore oil and gas. So to me, it's such an exciting profession. So Kathleen had asked a question, but before I go into her question, just on that topic that you just mentioned, Jake, maybe Philip can share if Louis is still on. But how is the Future Leaders Community helping around energizing the younger generation? So we have that pipeline coming through, and how could we who are longer in it in the profession support those initiatives you all are looking at?
Yeah, okay. So one of the initiatives that we as the steering group and the community are looking at the moment and getting involved is presentations with our universities and university level qualifications at the moment. So there's quite a few of those going off at the moment. That is talking to people who are coming to the end of their courses, or even those at the start of their courses, to really talk about coming into health and safety or joining IOSH as part of their health and safety career, to really bring them into the industry. I think ultimately IOSH needs to start to work backwards from that and maybe start moving further back and go to colleges and even to schools. But I think they want to start at the university end and work their way backwards. So I would expect that over this next year or so, you may see more things coming where we're talking to colleges and things like that to try and bring more people in into the industry through that way. One way that I talked about earlier that branches can help is if they want people in the branches who are more experienced can sign up and become IOSH mentors. The mentor scheme is a massive part of IOSH that a lot of people are taking part in, and a lot of the people on our steering group are part of that, and they're mentees as well, looking for really good mentors. So if you have vast experience and want to pass that on and want to help develop somebody to continue on what you've started and to really help them in their career, I would encourage anybody to sign up and be an IOSH mentor. From a branch perspective, branches need to engage more with their future leaders, find out who they are, get them involved, and really start to build a network with them to say, these are the people, what can we help you with, how can we help you? But then on the flip side, it's also for your future leaders that are part of your branches to really step up and start to speak and say, we're here. We want this information. We want to know about this. We want to know about that. One thing we're really pushing this year, and I want to push this year, is that, as Faye touched on earlier, there is that trepidation that you can't speak about things. There are people who are more experienced than you, and it's difficult. But the answer to that is you can. And the answer to that is when those positions become available on the council and on branch committees and steering group committees to really come and make a difference. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you are a future leader or not, you can come forward and really make a difference in this industry to help other people, whether you've been doing it for 5 minutes or 10 years. Everybody's got a valid opinion and point, so get involved.
Yeah, no, thanks, Philip. That's amazing. I agree with that. So I want to raise Kathleen's question because I think it aligns as well to what you said. So so Kathleen said, I have an MSc in Safety, Health and Environmental Management. I've been trying to get a health and safety role since 2019. Why is it so difficult to find a role in the sector, and can you provide any advice to get a job, as I'm located in a place where health and safety is not really practiced? So we heard from the four of you all, and again, how you got into the profession slightly different. Any tips? Maybe I can ask each of you all to a tip or advice you want to provide, Kathleen?
Yeah, I'll go first. I know it's difficult and not everybody can do it, but if you've got the ability to even volunteer in roles, if possible, then that might be something where you obviously you are missing a little bit of experience there. You've got your master's degree and things like that, which is great, but it's that softer skills and that bit of work experience that you're missing. And I know it's difficult and not everybody has the ability to be able to work for free or volunteer for free or anything like that, but if you can try and get some experience, practical application of your your knowledge in some way, then that's going to help you stand out. I also think, from my personal perspective, as somebody who has hired people in the past, if I saw on a CV that somebody had their degree and they were then doing some volunteer work, that really shows me that they've got a passion and they really want to get into this industry and really want to do it, that they're out there trying to get experience when they're not being rewarded for it. So if it's possible, I know it's not for everybody, that would be one tip I would give if it's possible.
No, thanks. Kevin?
Yep, I've had to switch over to a different computer, so I've got no webcam anymore. So
we're hearing you, so yeah, you can go ahead.
That's all right. So I'm a part of the mentor program, actually. I have a few mentees, and that question comes up a lot when I'm trying to help new people to the profession. Where do they start when no one will hire them? And one of the things I think has actually really helped them quite a lot, and it's worked at least for the mentees I've worked with, is consider consultation. Health and safety consultants tend to be much more willing to hire somebody on who's tech or is just getting into the industry as a sort of like an apprentice or in a lower role, being supported by a senior health and safety consultant, which means that you kind of get a lot of practical experience and the support of somebody to mentor you face-to-face within the profession. It's not always the most lucrative financially profession, especially at the beginning. So it will come down to where you are in your actual career and whether or not you can sort of, take that sort of the pay and a lot of travel that tends to be involved in the profession.
Okay, no, thanks. Faye, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, so from my own experience, I obviously wanted to make quite a jump from working in an industry, in a completely different industry, and then move into health and safety. So what I found I was doing was taking on roles where I could have a health and safety focus as part of that role. So I was like a deputy manager of a health club with a health and safety focus, or I was a duty manager / health and safety coordinator, whilst I was working alongside our consultants who looked after the leisure centre as such. And I know it's a completely different industry, but what it meant was I was working in a role, but gathering health and safety experience alongside it. So I was gathering experience that was specific to safety, but also doing something else at the same time. So I was learning how to obviously communicate and getting all the experience that I needed from that perspective. Also sort of gathering health and safety experience as well. So I wasn't going in completely blind saying, right, well, I've done my general certificate, but I have no health and safety experience. It's like, well, actually, I've spent a lot of time working alongside our consultants in building emergency evacuation plans, and sort of operating procedures, managing lifeguards, that side of things. So doing those dual roles can actually help to just sort of gain that experience whilst working in another role at the same time.
Okay, thanks, Faye. And Jake, anything you wanted to add to that?
A couple of things, I think. One thing, I guess it does depend somewhat if the issue is, are you getting interviews but not being successful, or not getting interviews at all? I guess that the answer would be slightly different for both of those. I think broadly, I'd echo what's already been said in terms of make sure you make the most of all networking opportunities through IOSH and other bodies to try and find an in. I think, Kathleen, you mentioned that you're located in an area that doesn't really practice health and safety. So I'd obviously need to know a little bit more about how we might be able to help on that. Well, I recall a time at BP where as part of my roles, you'll see that I haven't typically been a health and safety manager. I've done a lot of jobs that don't have health and safety in their title. And a director once said to me that when we were talking about safety, he said every one of his terminal managers that had to manage in excess of 5 million litres of petroleum product on site, they're a terminal manager, but they're also a safety manager because the buck stops with them. So I think using that principle, I would say, is there any other opportunities that would interest you in any kind of operational role? Because if you're in an operational role, I would argue that any operational manager is a safety manager to a greater or lesser extent. And then doing that, if safety is your true passion, which clearly it is if you've gone down the MSc route. I think it would be a lot easier then to pull out key safety aspects, even in a short term in an operational role, to then bolster your CV. If you're getting loads of interviews, then I'm sure that IOSH offer coaching and support around interview technique, and then it's about identifying a differentiator, what sets you apart. And I would argue it's probably not your MSc, and that's not an insult. That is, your MSc is great. There'll be quite a few people with that level of qualification. Think deep and hard. What is your differentiator personally, and major on that. And I'm not an expert in IOSH. I'm just reconnecting, should we say? As I said to Melissa, it's been many years since I've been involved in IOSH through one reason or another. But I'm sure there's some support there in terms of interview technique. If it is, you're getting lots of interviews, but not actually succeeding in the interview.
Thanks, Jake. That's really amazing hearing from the four of you all, and responses have been very insightful. We can go on for another hour or so. I'm very inspired. Comments on the chat has been very inspirational. We are going to continue until 2:30, but you know, the formal part of it where we'll start to wrap up, and I'll be handing over, as I said at the start, hosting duties to Alan. We do have a couple of slides where we just want to talk about just the Chiltern branch, some of the upcoming activities, some opportunities for branch members and non-branch members to get involved. But thank you, Philip. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Faye. Thanks, Kevin, for very inspirational presentation. Your passion and your dedication to this profession is very, yeah, just very not promising, because you're already in it, but you know, it just adds to why we all are in this profession. So just want to say thanks for that. I'm sure you all are okay with people to reach out to you via LinkedIn. So hopefully we'll keep some connections going. So good. As I said, we do want to go into some Chiltern branch pieces. Please stay on. But again, just thanks very much. Thanks to Louise. Thanks to everyone who helped plan this session. A recording of it will be available, so you can look back. And there's been a lot of good reference materials on the chat, links, etc. So good. So thanks. So Alan, I'll hand over to you before I have to drop off. But please stay on. It's just because I'm on a training course, so I would have stayed until 2:30. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Melissa. And while I'm sorting out to share my screen and the last couple of slides, I mean, please, you know, do stay on. You're more than welcome. We're a very international branch, actually. We've got members all over the place, and Kurt there from Trinidad and other colleagues around the place. So, I mean, firstly, for me, just looking back on that session, you know, thank you again to all of our speakers. The word inspiring has been come up so many times in the chat, and that's really what it's all about. It's inspiring others by sharing your own stories and the fascinating difference in career journeys to get where we all are. I think the only frightening thing to me as an old stager is that quite a few of you haven't got the number 19 in front of the dates when you, I think it was Jake with his career trajectory. Doesn't go back to last century like quite a few of us on this call perhaps, but I think the industries and health and safety professions in safe hands, that's for sure. So that's really good to see. Kathleen's question got answered at the end, and you had 4 answers for the price of 1 there, and there's plenty of resource material available.